I'm gonna go over Alpha Lock and Select, and they're similar, but they're different. So Alpha Lock I can turn on by tapping the layer and then choosing Alpha Lock, but I like to use a shortcut, and that's to use 2 fingers and swipe to the right on the layer that I want to turn Alpha Lock on. And if you see this transparent, it's a checkerboard, that means that those areas are transparent. So if I zoom in over here to my honey stick and I try to draw on it, it's not gonna let me draw outside of the lines. So this is super useful if I wanna do some shading or some highlighting. I can also change the entire contents of this layer. So Alpha Lock is on, I'll tap the layer again and I'll hit Fill Layer. And it's gonna change everything that is on that layer, that entire honey stick, to the color I have selected in my color palette. And I'll show you quickly. So I can turn that on and off again by swiping 2 fingers. So on and off. If I were to fill the layer with it off, it would fill the entire layer. And by the way, you can tell that it is off because the background here is just gray. There's no checkerboard. So I'm going to show you Select now, and I'm going to turn the pattern off on this teacup. So with this teacup, I'm going to tap and I'm going to hit Select, and you'll see these wavy lines, and that means that all of this area is not selected, and everything where there's not wavy lines, that is area that I can draw on. So I can draw like this, but I can't go outside of those bounds, and I can also hit Select, and I can fill layer, and I've filled the entire teacup with that white color. But the real power here, well, here, I'll show you again. I'll select it again. I can tell I'm in select mode because this little blue line is highlighted. So I could come in here and I could draw a pattern, and it's gonna be contained to the body of the teacup. But the real power is I can add a new layer, and now this layer has that teacup shape selected, and I can draw on that layer a new pattern, and I'll come out of selection mode by tapping that. So now we're just normal, and now this pattern is separate from the teacup. So I can change the color of this pattern really easily. I can select it, and then I can choose yellow, and I can fill the layer with yellow. It's just super easy to change those colors. Now I'm going to go over layer modes and some cool ways to do some shading and highlighting techniques. So if I come in here, you'll notice that there are some letters next to the visibility checkbox. And if I tap on that letter, it opens up a new menu. So opacity will make something see-through. So that's really cool. It doesn't permanently affect it. So this is a great way. You can make your layers as dark as you want, and then like you can come in here and make it see-through or transparent, like if you're making a ghost or something. But it gets even better. So let's go check out these bees. So I'm going to turn the bee off, and you'll notice that there is like some shadow right there. So I've created a shadow on a different layer from my bee. So if I tap on the M, I'm going to notice that the opacity is lowered on this, and it's on multiply. But if I pump it up, you'll see it's really, really dark. But the reason I did that is multiply basically darkens the colors underneath of it. So it's come over here, and it has made a dark, wherever is a gray, it's made a darker gray, and wherever it's like a yellow, it's made a darker yellow. So that can be really useful, but I thought it was a little bit extreme at full opacity, so I knocked it down to, I think it was like 60 something. So it's a little bit more subtle. This also works on multiple layers. So if I come down here to my teacup, I have this layer right here, which is a shadow. And I've set it on linear burn, and I've turned the opacity down because it's kind of extreme. But what you'll notice is that the pattern is on one layer and the teacup is on one layer, but this shadow is affecting both of them. So it's creating like a subtly darker bluish hue for the pattern and much darker blue on the teacup itself. So that's a great way to create some darker effects and shadows. So that's in the darken menu here. You can also use this to create highlights. So that would be in like the lightning mode. So I'll come up to this honey up here, and if I tap on it, I'm in the lighten mode and I'm on screen. So I'm gonna turn off the honey stick so you can see what's underneath of here. This looks like nothing because now that the honey stick is gone, it's just lightening up everything underneath of it. So it's lightening up the pink in the background and it's trying to lighten up the white in here, but it can't really because white is as light as it can go. But if I turn this onto normal, you'll see this is all yellow. So if I turn my honey stick back on, you'll see that combined, this is a really bold yellow, but when I turn it onto screen, it really lightens everything up in a really translucent, highlighted way. So there's lots of different effects that you can play with in here. There's contrast and color and difference, and I really suggest that you play with them. The colors that you use will change the effects. So if you're using white instead of yellow, that would create a different effect. And there's just a lot of really fun things to play with there.